My pastor Craig is back.
Hello.
It's been almost a year.
I think so.
Yes, and our last video was on YouTube, and we're
So?
hoping this one will actually get more views this time.
Yes.
Um,
Show up, please.
show, and so last time we discussed a lot of questions about it was more of teachings in the Bible that we stand behind in the
Okay.
church, and I believe I was like it was the level of love we have for one another, especially in what we're described to do in the Bible. And
Love
I
is
said,
important.
yeah, and this is basically what you preach is right from the Bible, and the book of love is the Bible.
Yes.
So um, one of the things that I would like to discuss though is something you had a revelation of before you
Yeah, I
guys.
was mentioning to Chris right before we came on here that one of the things I was thinking about this morning was I'm doing a work right now on the importance of integrity. And honesty is the kind of the pinnacle of integrity, but it's not the only part of integrity. And most people don't realize that integrity goes much deeper than that. It's kind of honesty is like the tip of the iceberg. If there's no tip there, there's no integrity down below. In other words, if there's no honesty, there's also no integrity.
Right.
But integrity is more than just honesty. And integrity means that you are integrated. And so one of the things I was working on that especially is like introverts and extroverts,
Okay.
which most people know what introverts and extroverts are.
Right.
But it includes a bunch of other things beyond that. But introverts and extroverts are a good example where most people are kind of unbalanced to one side or the other. Most people are either an introvert or an extrovert, which means that they're kind of unbalanced one way or the other.
Right.
And both have positives and both have negatives. And most people today only think of the positives of extroverts because everybody kind of wants to be an extrovert.
Right.
But introverts listen better. Introverts usually think better. So even though extroverts are more action orientated, they're more getting out there, introverts can sometimes do smarter ways of getting out there
And get deeper.
and go deeper. And
Yeah.
so they're better in a one-on-one conversation, whereas an extrovert is better in a conversation with multiple people and
Right.
so forth. And so the more you have integrity, the more you're integrated, the more you have the positives
Okay.
of both the introvert and the extrovert, so that you can have a good conversation one-on-one with a person, and you can be somewhat better in a group situation.
Huh.
Or, for the extrovert, he thinks a little bit before he does some of his quick actions and kind of regrets what he did later on the next day.
Right.
And that all starts really with honesty.
Okay.
And the way that you can tell whether a person is going to have this is the thing that I thought was the most important thing of what I was thinking about today. The thing that will determine whether or not you have the negatives of your personality or the positives of your personality type will be determined first and foremost by your level of honesty.
Love honesty.
If a person who is lying a lot
Mm-hmm.
will usually have the worst of his personality type. A person who will tell you the truth even when it hurts. The Bible says that a person who can ascend into the holy hill of God is a person who will swear to his own hurt, meaning he makes a promise, even that goes against him, that he doesn't like, that he wish he hadn't made, but he still keeps his word. That person is a person who will enter into a deeper relationship with God, will have the more excellent side of his personality. He'll be good with people. He'll also be a good thinker.
And that all came to you when? Before coming here?
I won't say that was all this morning.
Okay.
That was but some of that was being furthered
Okay.
this morning beyond what I thought in other times.
Cool.
Yeah.
And this is we're hearing this also on Sunday then too?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Because
I got a lot of things to cover, but
Okay.
I might squeeze it in there.
I would say
I
I
often
might
do,
hear
like-
the recap of this again by Sunday. I
Yes.
might want to hear this again because it's intriguing how you're explaining this. Because I might just explain a lot of what happens in the church, like with people how people perceive things.
Right.
And then you have a new person come in, you're going integrity.
Right.
And that thing is especially with when you have someone who we all have that person in our life who says, yeah, I'm your friend, but only at a certain level. as long as you have this for me, I'll give you this much honesty or my integrity. What you're saying, how deep is your integrity? Also, how deep is your friendship with that person as well?
Definitely.
It should be how it should be with Christ. Christ's integrity with us is so deep,
Right.
and he's so honest with us. How much more should we give back?
He's the only one who we can trust that he will always be honest. Because people today, honesty is not even held as a high value anymore.
No.
You look at TV shows and stuff like that, and people just lie and don't even think about it.
Right. It just
It's
comes
just
naturally.
It's just natural. It's just
Yeah.
automatic. And I'm just amazed sometimes when I watch how even on the TV show, then they'll have negative consequences from their lying.
Right.
But do they ever even think? Does anybody ever think that's bad to lie? No. People still think, oh, that's a white lie.
Yeah.
There really is no such thing.
It's not really hurting the person. It's just making them see the truth a different way. And it's like, the truth is the truth, no matter how you paint it.
So people used to tell me white lies all the time. They used to say, oh, you're doing really good at that, when I really was terrible at it. But then when I was actually good at something and they said, oh, you're really good at that, I didn't know if they're telling the truth or not.
Right.
And so without integrity, those little white lies made it so I couldn't trust
Right.
what they were saying. And so I didn't know the areas where I really needed to improve and the areas where I didn't. So I had to figure it out for myself, which is always a good thing to do.
I mean, yeah. You read the manual first before you ask anybody questions, and then you go, was I clear in this? Yeah. Because it's like I was telling them that basically I trained another new person.
Congratulations. He's a good trainer, by the way. I think that is really so cool.
And this is her.
His people are being successful. Anybody from his company that's watching, he needs a promotion.
Second day as a guard. That's her job. She's like, what was your job before this? Well, I worked at Meyer. Doing what? Oh, I was a cashier. I'm like, okay. If you don't me asking, how old are you? I'm 18. I'm like, okay. So I'm in my mind going, okay, so this is generation what? Like, who am I trying to train here? How much education do I gotta push? Because with the other guy, it was like immediate. Like, he could recognize it. He knew what he was doing. Come to find out, he lost all of his training the same night. Because he came the same day. She knew more than he did.
Wow.
Because my boss came in after I did training with her. I drilled with her about 4 or 5 times, right? And I said, make sure you do this, because she would freeze up, and I said, you just gotta make sure you're have a good day. You have a bad day, it's all in the past. This is your job. And she's like, that makes sense. I'm gonna do this. And so we drilled, and then Josh showed up, and he was like, I have questions for you. And I'm like, oh no. And she just froze up. And I'm like, don't do this to her.
She was an introvert, probably.
She hardcore introvert. I did most of the talking.
Yeah, introverts get scared and they withdraw if they're not well integrated.
Right. And so I told him, I said, just give her the basics. He's like, all right, so I have 2 questions for you. So he asked her 2 questions, and she aced them.
Right.
And then he was like, I'll ask you a difficult one. And I'm like, oh boy, is it like, how difficult? So he gave her one that I only drilled her once, and she aced it. And I'm like,
right. So because she's an introvert, she actually listened and learned this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's an introvert, the negative portion is she gets afraid and she freezes in a conflict situation. And if she could have the charge ahead attitude of the extrovert plus
right,
the ability to learn like the introvert, boom, you have a success.
My extrovert guy, he's lost his entire cool. He lost everything, and he just goofed along the entire night. I'm like, dude, if you're doing this, well, I'm only here till end of July. I'm like, okay, well,
maybe not that long.
Right. And so I'm like, I told my boss, he asked me later on, and he messaged me like, so how do you think it went with the new girl? And I said, if she gets go over a hump of being scared, she'll be a great guard.
Right.
And she bikes to work. She bikes everywhere.
That's
And
good.
I'm like, that's great. I mean, she's
That develops
hardworking.
confidence. She's pushing out
Yep.
there, accomplishing stuff,
And she
not
wants to
afraid
do
to.
this.
Yep.
Like she said, I want this job because I'm getting an apartment, so I'm getting my priorities straight. And I'm like,
Excellent.
you're better than most 18-year-olds right
Yeah.
now. Not saying you all are that way, okay? But it's more of a thing is like, the guys who I'm training,
The
they're
neat
there.
thing about young people is you got your entire life to learn.
Right.
I mean, you are in a great situation. Some of the rest of us, if we haven't learned it yet, we're kind of, we should have done that already.
I should learn how to do my oil a while ago. And this thing is, she even asked me, she was like, what experiences have helped you get to the point where you're at now? And I'm like, I have a book of experience. And
You do.
she's like, the question that was kind of funny though is she asked me how long I've been a Christian, and I'm like, that's a whole story by itself. And she said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I had to repent for a lot of things. And she asked, what does repent mean? And I'm like, oh, this is great because she's
Right.
willing to listen.
Right.
So I gave her a quick summary of my testimony, and she's like, so you repented because of this, because it was straightforward to the point. I'm like, yeah. I said it was either me going back to God or right to hell. And she's like, wow, that's a book by itself. Like, and so it was a stepping stone for me to. I explained to her. I said, your experiences as a person from say your birth till now, all your experiences are stepping stones to either help you build or topple over. And she's like, that makes a whole lot more sense than hearing it from the pulpit. And I'm like, a lot of pulpits, they don't really do that.
Have you told your group about how you had that experience of actually seeing hell, if I remember right, correct, in a sense?
Feeling it, yes.
Feeling it.
I have not gotten to the depths.
Okay. That's good.
It is good. People keep saying I should put on YouTube, but I'm like, that might be demonetized immediately. So I tried to I have explained some of it during certain like portions of the year, like during Halloween. People want to hear the scary truth. I'm like, well, this is my scary truth.
Right.
I've seen things, and this is my proof.
People shouldn't be upset with you if you're just sharing what happened with you. That should
Right.
never be a problem. If you're attacking somebody else, I can understand why that might be a problem to some people. But if
You're
just
taking their
sharing it-
opinion, man.
right? But if you just share your what actually happened to you, how can people argue with that? It's like,
True.
oh, I don't think you really had that experience.
Well, it was funny. One of her things that she said a lot of people argue with her about is how do you know since the Bible was man created, the Bible. And she's like, but your book that you read in yours is all about faith. Like your doctrine is belief on faith. She said, because you weren't there when Jesus was raised from the dead. You weren't there when he was born, so you have faith that this happened. And she said, then a lot of people say the historical facts were man-made. She said, she's like, how do you testify to your faith? And I said, by reading the Bible more. And she was laughing. She's like, okay, that's a good point. But she said, well, then when you have someone who comes to you with those kind of questions, do you just say, I have faith? And I'm like, that's kind of what I try to do. I said, because I don't have all the answers. I said, I just give the card to the church. She's like, oh, I might look this up. And I said, because I said, when you don't have the answer, you have pastors who are ahead of you who teach you how to do this, what I'm trying to do here. And I said, I'm a baby at this. I am horrible at this, but I'm learning. I'm learning how to do it better.
You are.
And I said, the thing is the more that you learn, the better you're equipped with the certain armor of God. And she's like, I know that is. And I'm like, yes, okay.
Amen. That's good.
So, being the introvert first,
okay,
then turn to the extrovert,
right?
My integrity is going a lot deeper because I can then learn how to do certain things better. Because I can be more honest with people going, this is what really happened. I know this happened to me. And people's then being honest with them is going to open more doorways to them as well. Because they're going, okay, this makes more sense because he won't lie to me about this.
Right.
Because I can tell it's the truth,
If I can jump back to where you talked about how do you know this is real? Is this the work of a man or is this the work of God?
Right.
Biblically, it's both, but it's primarily the work of God.
Right.
And people ask, well, how do you know that? You just have to accept that by faith? Not in the sense most people mean faith, in the way that the Bible means faith, which literally means, the Greek word means to be persuaded by evidence. The evidence is there for the Bible. You have to ignore the evidence to disbelieve what's in the Bible. And the illustration that I use is, could a man like Daniel have come up with a prophecy that there would be a total of 4 kingdoms beginning from the time of Babylon, which was in his day.
Right.
And after that, there would be no more worldwide empires over the Western Hemisphere. Think of it.
Dang, Rome did that? I thought Rome was.
Rome was the last one.
Was the last one.
And then since then, there has not been a single one. There's been many that tried. Napoleon tried. Hitler tried. Somewhat Charlemagne kind of came close, but he still did not accomplish it. Nobody has united the Western world, and biblically that will not happen, although there will be a brief thing that will come close at the final one world empire right before the end.
Right.
But apart from that, biblically, Christianity will be the primary force on the earth from the days after the Roman Empire. That's prophesied by Daniel 500 years before the collapse of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And we have copies of the manuscripts of Daniel from 200 years before Rome. And think about it. If there's a kingdom that's already conquering the entire world, in order for somebody else to come along, in order for that empire to fall, somebody else better has to come along, which means they're going to conquer the entire world. So nobody's just going to say, yeah, I think that there's going to be a period where there's going to be no more one world empires, once there already is one. It's not going to be something that a person's just going to randomly predict, as well as predicting exactly how many empires that there would be before it happened. Things like that, and there's plenty of things like that. That's not the work of a man.
Right.
You couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Only God can do that. Yes, men wrote it down, but as they were given it by God, who's the only person who can know the future in reality.
It's basically getting a recipe from God of what things are to come, and this is what needs to be used in order for it to bloom into what would be the end, if you would, right?
So demons could have some idea of what's going to happen in the future to some degree.
Right.
Angels and demons have a limited degree of understanding of the future. But humans are only going to know the future by revelation, either from God or from demons. Sometimes God through angels,
Right.
but it's going to come either through angels or demons. Humans don't know the future. We can guess at it.
Yeah, we guess a lot. I've seen a lot of that. 2000, maybe the end of the world. Now 2010. Now 2024. And like, when's the end of the world going to happen?
When was the end of the Mayan calendar? I forget. Was that like 2011 or something?
2011, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was before the Y2K scare happened.
Right.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Y2K happened because of, well, who predicted that again?
Y2K... You really want to get into this?
Let's just do it, because I mean, we have another 50 minutes ish.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
We're doing great on time.
We're doing great time. We're just
this will stir up some probably interest. Y2K, in my opinion, occurred. First of all, I believed Y2K before anybody else hardly was aware of it.
Okay.
But I quickly noticed as everybody started jumping on board that the only people who were giving evidence that there was going to be a problem at Y2K were all government sources. There is no private businesses who are saying this is going to be a problem. And so I jumped back and I said, whoa, I do believe that there is such a thing as a conspiracy. I do believe that all conspiracy means is people get together and try to fake people out.
Right.
That happens all the time. When you buy a car, you may have been the victim of a conspiracy. When the manager got together with the salesman and said, oh, tell them it's this price. And they knew that it was going to go down lower. That was a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I think that the Y2K was intentionally designed to get people who are especially Christians, who are already thinking 2000 is going to be the end of the world.
Right.
To some degree, which I told people, it will not happen. I will be here after 2000. They're going, well, I'm going to be leaving you behind. I said, you want to put money on that? Nobody took me up on
Of course.
which I couldn't have lost anyway, because if we're gone, then they couldn't have
Right.
collected anyhow. But
Right.
so I figured it's a safe bet. But so they were trying to get those people who felt like it was going to be the end of the year anyway, and that Y2K just kind of fit in with that. And so
Okay.
they were trying to kind of make some Christians look stupid who would buy into it, make them spend their money on stupid stuff. I realized that the government could still pull it, make it happen anyway. They can still just kind of
With the
undercut
stock market and all
everything
that.
and just make
Yeah.
everything crash if they really wanted to.
Later gas prices.
So because just to be safe, I bought anything that I would have bought anyway. So I bought a few extra canned goods. I bought some protection things, etc.
Right.
Things that I was planning on buying anyway that I just bought at that time rather than waiting a year or two.
Right.
But other than that, I was pretty
Just
sure
as an in case.
as an insurance.
Just, yeah.
Yep. But other than that, I was telling everybody, do not buy into this. This is not going to happen.
I remember living through part of that, and most of the people were panicking, but most of them were churchgoers who were panicking.
Exactly.
Like, not even the average Joe Blow's going, I'm just going to go to work.
Most people don't care.
Yeah.
Christians care about that kind of stuff, and they know that, and they know how to target things.
Yeah, because I remember eating, Dad used to make the Y2K soup, and that was, it was just canned goods in a bun, like a can of stuff, and I'm like, is this something we were to eat, forced to eat, because if it was the end of the world, what would we had to do? That's when we started doing the survival training and doing outdoors and stuff, in case you're out of power, what happens? And I'm like, I'm glad it happened, but it just sucked because,
No, it was excellent.
It was excellent?
Because you need that training, because we are coming still into times that are going to be very ugly. And they were kind of trying to take the wind out of our sails, for people are saying, our country is kind of falling apart here.
Yeah.
It's like I lived in California for a while, and they used to call the governor over there Gray Out Davis, because after he took over, the whole state would go through periods where you wouldn't have power for half of the day, 1 day a week.
Yikes.
It became planned.
Wow.
And that's beginning to happen not just in California, but in other places across the country.
Right.
We're discussing, the bad water over here. It's like you read books like Atlas Shrugged, and it's like the stuff that's predicted in there.
Yeah. I don't know
is that dangerous?
I don't know who actually reads that though.
Okay, I'll just simply say it is incredible. It's prophetic, if you will, in one sense, of everything that's been happening. You read Atlas Shrugged. She wrote back in the late 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
And it's like boom, 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 boom. Everything is happening almost like on schedule. And it's not that she was a prophet in the sense that she knew what was going to happen. It's because she lived in a country that had been taken over by communists.
Okay.
And she saw the same types of things happening in this country that were taking place as the communists slowly took over in her country. And all she did is say, if the same thing happens here as happened in Eastern Europe when it was taken over by Russia, this is how we're going to go. And this is exactly what's happening until finally, basically, society is, morals, everything are really, really going downhill. And everybody agrees with that. Just nobody really knows how we should fix it.
And this is why you have mentioned more than once that history will repeat itself.
Oh yeah.
Until major change happens, right? Something like that. Because as long as you're continuing that same process until someone stands up and goes, "I'm done with the same process over and over again," it won't change.
The Jews finally learned when they were put into captivity in Babylon, which was prophesied over 1,000 years in advance by Moses. Said, you are also going to become more corrupt. And this progression always takes place until finally they went into captivity. And every great civilization goes through these same processes.
Right.
And eventually every great civilization falls. And every single great civilization thinks we're going to be here forever.
Romans did that.
Yeah, the Romans thought, hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're going to be here forever. They called Rome the Eternal City.
And a bunch of rednecks destroyed it. No law here. Yeah, it's funny how you bring up Atlas Shrugged, like, because I've never read the book.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who here has.
Most people have not in this day and age.
I've heard of it, because of you guys. And then outside of church, I think I've heard of it maybe mentioned twice.
Okay.
And it was mostly based upon it was books that were, if you would, red flagged by the libraries and stuff. And they're like, we don't carry a copy of that in the library anymore, type of thing. And
That
I'm like,
makes sense.
okay. So like they're like, there's books you don't want to read because you might be under the watchful eye. And I'm like, okay, great. So like that's on the list, you know.
Well, it's like there was, a person who predicted what's happening with Russia and how then that would incorporate into a one world empire later on down the road.
Right.
And he predicted in the, in the late 70s, everything that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yet now you can't find it because it's out of print. Why? You would think these type of things would be one of the first things that should be right on the top of the bestseller list, but they're actually removed. And yeah, they probably would be bestsellers if we were allowed to read them.
And yet you can find more money anywhere else because they keep printing the money.
Yep.
Yeah. So moving on.
Yeah.
Before I get canceled, don't do it. Please don't do that. But it's good to have information.
It is, and everybody can use information. And if you disagree with it, we are here to talk about this stuff.
Yes.
And it used to be, at least, and hopefully still is.
Yeah.
That people can discuss. Yeah, it used to be a free country.
Yeah.
And it used to be that we could discuss any issue.
Any issue.
Any issue. And, that's what I loved about this. And people would, as a pastor, a lot of people are afraid to bring up things to a pastor.
He's not afraid of just, he loves it.
I'm like, come on, let's talk about it. The reason why, if you're messed up,
yeah,
the reason why you are is because you probably never had a chance to talk to anybody about this, because everybody would just immediately judge you about it when you brought it up.
Or say, no, you're okay.
Or say you're okay, one or the other.
I've heard that a lot.
Either one are wrong.
I've heard that a lot on the streets. I've heard that a lot.
And the answer is, yeah, that is wrong, for instance, in some of those things, but here's why, and let me explain to you the reasons why. And then you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Why have I been living that way?
Yeah.
It's like, who really wants to get drunk every single night? If you think about the long-term effects of that, of sitting over the porcelain god and having a hangover the next morning. But when you're drinking those beers, you're not thinking about the next morning, or otherwise you probably wouldn't do it too extreme.
Because it says in the Bible, live for the day, for tomorrow we shall die. Isn't it something like that?
Yeah, but that's a person who is not in good shape. Is the person who says that.
Right.
He says, I'm not going to think about tomorrow. I'm just going to focus entirely on right now. But yet that's our culture.
Yeah.
And in fact, many people have made that as if it's Christianity.
And it's their motto now.
And they take a scripture out of context where Jesus said, don't worry about these things.
Yeah.
The evil of each day is, adequate to that day. And they go, well, see, from that, we shouldn't even think about the future. He never said, don't think about it. He said, don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Big difference.
Yeah.
All kinds of things in Proverbs and all throughout the Bible about planning for tomorrow.
Sow your seed.
But don't worry. Sow your seed for tomorrow. How you act today is going to determine what your future is.
If you're sowing seed, you should worry about. You should plan for tomorrow. Don't worry about if the birds eat some of the seed. Just keep going. Just keep go day by day.
Says the lazy man just keeps on saying, "Oh, there could be a lion in the street," or ours is there could be a tornado, or catastrophe could happen. So why worry about it? I'm just gonna. I got enough money to spend for a day, and it's Tuesday. Hopefully I'll make it until Friday.
Gas prices are gonna go up anyway, so why go anywhere,
Yeah, so do plan for the future.
Yeah.
But just don't worry about it, because worrying doesn't solve anything. But planning helps a lot.
And it's again part of the your integrity. It's still it's big. I'm trying to make sure all this kind of like webs in, because I'm going. I have a habit of worrying, but the more that I am thinking about things by using some of my I side, and also using my E to execute those orders, if you would, after I think about it, then it's better in the future for me, because I'm going, I don't need to worry about it anymore, because I'm already planning ahead by saving up money that my eye told me, my eyesight told me, save money up, buddy, because in the future your E-side's gonna have to do this. And like, all right, we're ready, we're good to go.
Yep. Well, and kind of with what you said earlier about faith, tying that in as well, is
Mhm.
that real faith believes the promises that God has for us, that He will take care of us.
Yep.
And so I can plan for the future, and that's part of faith because I believe that the future is going to be good.
Right.
Worrying is saying, I think the future is going to be bad, and I don't trust God to take care of me. So, worrying, bad. Planning, good.
Hmm.
Worrying, not faith. Planning is of faith.
Very true. Very true. I need that for the day. I really need this talk today. I really did. I'm like,
Awesome. It's
I'm
fun.
like, what's the worst could happen in this talk? Like, not really, not a whole lot.
Oh, the house could come crashing down or something like that. But you know what? We had a person at our church who that did happen. His actual ceiling came down on his head, and right before it came crashing down, the person felt like they were supposed to move out of the bed, woke up, and jumped out of bed as the ceiling came down.
Was it in your house?
No, it was not my house.
I thought it was maybe that tree incident that you had that happened in your house, and that was like,
That was interesting too.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Which that was also interesting of the way that God protected through that, and God ended up blessing, and we got a
as a
new
church.
roof for free,
Yep.
basically. And we needed a new roof within the next 2 years anyway.
Yep.
Now we got the new roof for free. So, and it just went through, did not actually, it just went through in the basically the patio, basically, and just enough so that it ruined the rest of the roof, and the roof was paid for. So
It looked
nice.
worse than it was
Oh yeah.
because we got out there. And I'm like, oh, is Craig okay? You know, like what
Oh, yeah.
happened? As a kid, you're going, this is bad because it was trees down everywhere that storm. I mean, it was everywhere. And then you're just like, oh, Craig's house is. Oh my goodness, there's Craig's house. You know, like okay, well.
Well, the church where we were meeting at the time, there was a tree down, and the tree landed right in the only place it could have landed without taking down power lines or without tearing down the building.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, horrific things happen, but God protects those who are trusting in Him.
Amen to that. So we're going to our next section. We have about half an hour left. I figured you had those questions for me, so I figured let's just go right into those and see how long these questions last.
All right. Well, this has been good too, so we can jump back into it at any
Oh
point.
yeah,
But
for sure. I mean,
I told Chris I'd like to ask him a couple questions. as
yeah.
well. And you guys probably would like to get to know some more things about Chris. And first of all, related to your viewers, unless you guys have any questions, and please ask them of either Chris or me.
Yeah, I'll say if Fun Dad has any questions, feel free to, because I know Fun Dad said me about something earlier, and I'm like, you're on a roll. I'm like, I'm not sure what me was about, so.
So feel free to clarify or whatever, or ask again, or if you want to try to
Atlas,
answer it.
oh yeah, Atlas, yeah. You read Atlas Shrugged, or you know about it?
That's to me. I have read Atlas Shrugged about 3 times.
3 all the way through?
All the way through.
And is it like more than one book?
It's one book, but it's over 1,000 pages.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of people have not
Oh,
read it.
so it was him saying he read it.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, so he knows about it, and
What'd you think of it?
he probably loved it.
If you made it all the way through, you probably did. Yes, Animal Farm and 1984 were excellent as well.
Yeah.
And along the same lines, as well as Brave New World, which is kind of the way that things are probably going to go, as a combination of Brave New World by Aldous Huxley and 1984 by Orwell. But that's another subject. Yeah, congratulations if you made it through that book. There aren't a whole lot of people who've got the diligence to make it through. I love everything that she writes economically. I don't, and I agree about 50% of what she says socially, and I disagree with almost everything she says about religion.
I mean, she's not
perfect.
She's not perfect, yeah.
But socially, she is right on the money, and it comes from her experiences that she's writing out of, and therefore you learn a lot.
Always surprised on it yet. Yeah, the redneck who read Atlas Shrugged. I am really shocked, actually. He's got brains. That's always good to hear. But I mean, that's something we can talk about too. Then is like, you know, like I can then have a more deep discussion with Fun Dad, going, okay, so I just read this part of the chapter. What were your thoughts about this? And he's gonna go, well, back in my day, I didn't have an encyclopedia to look at, so. But I mean, it's good to have someone like yourself also has read it. So if I have a certain viewpoint from someone else going, well, this is how I think about it, I can go, well, what is you think about it? And I
Sure.
just use both sides and go, okay, so the conclusion is definitely this then, because it makes more sense, type of thing.
Sure.
Cool.
So, question for you is, what do you like best about doing these episodes
With you?
with me and or with your group? What do you like best about your group?
About
It
why you
says
do stuff.
we use stone tablets.
So there is stone in print.
Yeah, it says you went there on your dinosaur. Yeah,
uh,
uphill both ways
yeah.
to school.
Um, what I enjoy about these specifically, especially with just now, this is our second one with you right now.
Okay.
What I enjoy the most is this is basically people can see the other side of lasagna, where this is
His
more
deep sigh
the deep philosophical
from the
side.
introversion
But
side.
people then they can then get the face of going, "No, this is who your pastor is."
Right.
When I come back and go, my pastor had this great discussion about introverts and extroverts, and they're going, but is your dad supposed to be the kind of guy as a pastor? Well, yeah, he's like a pastor figure, but also then my pastor. They're going, huh? So I can always go, well, then Craig comes in here, and then our last YouTube video again, we need more views on that, please. um, our last discussion had a lot more, what I base upon my own if you would, my own motto, which is respect one another, support one another, love one another, but also don't forget to have a little laugh once in a while.
Sure.
So, I mean, you enjoy good comedy here and
Laughter
there.
is like a medicine.
Good medicine.
I mean, good medicine. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like, as long as those first three things are met in my own community, which is love, respect, and support.
Those are more important.
Right. And the thing is we're not there to push everybody's opinions down everybody's throat. That's the
Right.
one thing that turns off everybody off of anything.
And nobody learns that way. It's
Right,
not fun.
right. It's like if people are saying,
I don't have fun.
that you're different than most Christians, and they're like, why is that? It's like I'm learning from people how
Right.
not to shove it down someone's throat and
Right.
just go, this is my experience. Take it as you will, but this is why I'm the way I am.
If
You
we
know?
have the truth, we don't need to be afraid of discussing it. We don't, and we do
Right.
not need to shove it down someone's throat. We want to have open discussions if we're comfortable that we have at least some of the answers.
Right. And the other part about basically why I enjoy doing this with other people, like on Wacky Wednesdays, right? Everybody enjoys Wacky Wednesdays because Wacky Wednesdays is basically a time for everybody to come there, have a laugh about just random dumb stuff,
Okay.
and it's a stress free part of my week. Going, it's kind of like that when you live the weekend type of thing. Like I had a long couple of days on Monday and Tuesday. I learned things on Wednesday, and I can bring what I learned into the Wacky Wednesdays if it's appropriate.
Relevant.
Yeah. But most of it turns into, looking at food and going, eat it or eat it, this kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it helps me be able to go, it helps my viewers see that, yes, not everybody's perfect when you look at food. And then also it's a good point to go, oh, wow, I could do this. So it helps bring some of the creativity, helps bring some of the fun into everyday life of going, oh, man, I got to cook ramen again. Well, here's a way to spice it up, and here's some fun ways to do it. And so when I talk to other people into the group, I also get to know the person as well. Whereas like then I got to learn how Fun Dad enjoys literally nothing except for it's deep fried, but also explains.
I'm good with deep fried.
But it also
Prefer
explains
normal
like
fried, but
right. It also it helps explain personalities. Because during the
right.
whole process of differing, who enjoys desserts, who enjoys this, you can also go how they reacted to how a person said something. And you're going, oh, okay, so this topic don't bring up ever again because it might spark this interest of someone else, but it will offend this one person. So let's kind of move people around. So I'm actually orchestrating, and I love it. So it's for me, it's a learning experience. I get to use what I learned from church, as well as from work, and put all in one. Whereas in church, yeah, I'm trying to learn philosophical theology and everything. At work, I'm enforcing rules, and then here I'm trying to spin it all together and have a little fun with it, and it's
Excellent.
fun. So that's why.
Sounds like you have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, 1,500 followers kind of helps.
Yeah, he tells us all the time about how much fun he's having with you guys, which is really cool. So
Yeah, and Fun Dad has a lot of fun because he and I have our discussions here and there, and then I have Miss Gaming, and I have Max, and everybody has again different viewpoints, different ways of life, and that's like it's fun to see how I can either slowly integrate some of that, and also going, oh, I've been there, so I'm gonna back away from this part, and then just go, okay, uh huh, and moving on.
do you help some of your people to get along well, better together with other people on the show? Somewhat, or
Somewhat,
and sometimes it's very difficult.
sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's like that one person that thorn in someone's side, and they just, I can't forgive them. I was like, okay,
Sure.
well, if they're here, I won't invite you. And they, oh, at least you're being polite about it, so appreciate it. So it's like, the more that you can try to bring people back in, the better. But if you can't, I'm not, again, I won't force it. It just, if they're there, I'm sorry, but they're already planned in advance.
So you don't get upset with them, but you enforce rules.
Nope, exactly. I made that whole new Discord, which is just a Discord is basically where I can put all my friends in one section.
Okay.
And I say it's a one offense. It's one warning and you're done. Like I said, I've done 2 of them already where I've had 3 warnings and everybody misused it. And I said,
that's true.
I have no time to deal with drama. I have no time to deal with the whiners. If they have a problem with somebody, let me know. I'll talk to them. If they said yes, that's their one warning. If they do it again, they're gone. And so I have like 3 enforcers already going, I'll back you up on that. And I'm like, all right.
I can understand that. Do you, if they appear to sincerely apologize, what do you do then?
I watch him like a hawk for a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's perfect.
We have someone
have on probation.
Yep, Just Fun Dad and I
Excellent.
have this person we're watching for a while now, and we're going, as long as they don't mess up, we're fine with them. If they cross that boundary one time, Fun Dad knows he's gone. That one person's gone. So, and I'm man my word. So I've been doing that for a while now.
Yeah, people abuse it. That makes sense because then everybody just assumes, hey, this person's getting away with it. Nothing's happening to them. And
lasagna's soft, so.
Yeah. But I think that there is a place for grace to let a person back in. So as long as there's genuine repentance, and that's always
and repentance is a key word to turn around,
right?
To change.
Wow. So you'd say that you are you haven't learned a lot, but yet I notice you've kind of picked up on quite a few of the things. Do you?
Okay.
What kind of things have other people said to you as far as where do they think you're at with your Christianity? Do they think that you're a baby? Do they think that you're kind of an expert? Do they think that, do they just listen to you and they're kind of watching and listening? What kind of response do you have from other people? On the stream and in person?
In person, people find it intriguing. Like from like one person, like when I was saying I don't work on Sundays and Wednesdays because I take my Christianity very seriously. People have said it before. I actually had a pastor, Terry, who was the guy I was training. He was like, I have never seen that much dedication to a church in a while. He said, I respect that. He said, if you had to work a certain day and it's on a Sunday, oh well, God's first. Now I'm like, that's how I am. And I said, when it comes to my streams, they know I do not stream on Sundays until after everything's done. I do not post a whole lot on there because I'm like, I'm busy with family. I see my family, church, and family, twice a week.
Yep.
That's their time. And I said, that's also my time with God. I said, my time with God either at work, reading the Bible and doing prayers, or at church. And church is dedicated to learning and, communing with my church family. That's what it's there for.
Isn't it interesting how many people find that surprising that a person would actually put God first?
Weird.
Put church first.
Very weird, right? Like
yes.
It's like if someone says, I put my money first. Well, I put my God first. So what's your God?
Right. That does show what your God is. If you're saying I need the money, so I gotta work regardless of what God says about going to church.
Yep.
Then that shows what
What
your God
scares
is.
you is when people say, "Well, God and I have a deal." Really? But which
Yeah,
one's the God though? Like, who has the greater strength? Let's see here. Who created heaven and earth? Huh? And you want to
right.
go? You want to work instead of worship Him for doing that because you're alive.
Have you ever had anybody say, I made my peace with God about that?
Once,
Yeah,
and I told them, "How much peace do you have right now?" Then, and they stopped using that excuse.
right.
And I'm
That
like,
has usually been one of the scariest things I've heard.
yeah.
People who've done that usually have done something pretty bad
Yep.
that they know they need to get right. So, how did things go with that person? Were you able to still communicate well with them, or did they get offended?
He's the one who trained me, so he and I
Okay.
are still friends.
Excellent.
But he keeps reminding me, well, I don't always work on Sundays, but when I do, God and I have understanding. And I said, I understand, but I still think that my God is more important than work. And he's like,
Good.
well, if they call you to work and they fire you, I said, then they fire me and I'll get a better job. And they're like,
Because God takes care.
and he's like,
I had seen
I don't
that so many
believe you.
times.
He's like, I don't believe you though. I'm like, watch me. I said, if they fire me over that, first off, I can take him to court if I have to, because it's in their book saying if you have a religious reason to not go to work, we will back you up 100% because we are a Christian based organization. And I'm like,
Which is cool.
so if they fire me for this reason, then
And you started with that agreement
Yep.
with them, which is smart. It's to always, whenever you get a job, try to get anything that's important to you, like church, hopefully,
Yep.
or whatever else is important to you. Make that agreement before
Yep.
you ever take the job, because afterwards it's tough.
My lawyer, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't tell everybody about it.
No, the law is so incredibly complicated that
Yeah.
no.
So basically in short version of all this is, I think people see a difference
Right.
with my maturity, with my Christianity, but it comes in different varieties, I guess.
Well, especially some of the truckers. Didn't you tell me that a lot
Yep.
of truckers really, they can see Christ in you, and that's not something you just, when you walk up to an average person and go,
Yeah.
I can tell you're a Christian.
Yeah.
But you've had that, right?
Mm-hmm. A couple times now where I had just a random person, some guy from where I think he's from Ukraine, and him going, Christ be with you, and I'm going, and you as well. And he's like, let's talk about my Christianity. 'Cause I like you. Like you can tell the personality just shines up when they hear someone say, and God be with you as well.
Sure.
Or shalom. I had one guy who said, you said shalom. I'm from Israel. How do you know that word? I'm like, well, my pastor told me it means this and this. And you know what it means? Like, okay, so what
cool.
church you go to? And I'm like, I tell him this is a church.
River of God.
Yeah.
Had to stick that in there.
And when I tell him, I said,
in Rothbury.
In Michigan. And I said, it's the more you learn about certain like cultures or even just languages, it can open up a whole new door to just people who have never heard of the truth, if you would. And they go, oh, my language, like the tongue thing, right? And this in Acts,
right.
the tongues, people heard their own dialect. The more I'm learning, like how to communicate to people who are from Ukraine or from India or from wherever, the more doors will open up, I believe. And I think, when people ask you, are you in the place where you think God wants you to be? I'm going, yeah. Like, I could reach so much more where I'm at. And including even on streams. I can do this, I can do work, and at church, I'm learning how to do it better.
Do you find you learn new things from people from different cultures that you would not maybe necessarily have learned from people in our culture? Not so much?
Depends on the culture.
Right. But some cultures, right?
Like some cultures, I like anything from like in the Asian area, it's hardcore respect and it's to a point. Instead of like in our culture, it's let's do a roundabout because we want to hurt your feelings. The Asians will let you know, hey, I need to know the answer. If you don't tell me, I'll find someone who will. And it's kind of most truckers who do that. They're going, this is what I have. This is my order, and that's all I need to give you. Like, that's all you need of me. Yep, you're right. Have a good day. And they're like, all right, I'm gone. Like, bye.
Makes it less fun,
Yeah.
but
But I mean, there's guys who just they want to own the entire place, and they're just like, I'm rude, I'm crude, and I don't care. And
okay.
it's like, you gotta be more forceful, you gotta be more direct, and you're going, I need you to do this. Don't lie to me saying that you know what you're doing, because this is the first time I've seen you ever.
What
So,
what about on your streams? Would you say that people have you learn different things from people in different parts of the country? Or
um,
are they pretty much the same
well, I
everywhere for
mean,
you?
I learned certain phrases from like Fun Dad, but I
Okay.
mean, it's still in the States. Not many people, I would say, except for a few people like Torrin Sean, he's from the UK.
Hmm.
He's explaining like some of the, yeah, funny Fun Dad. Some of the things that I have learned from Torrin Sean is like certain syllables for certain ways of presenting like food,
Okay.
and certain phrases of how to say a certain food, because they say it totally different than how we say it. And so I'm learning how to say certain things, and I'm kind of growing in that, but I'm like, I don't put a lot of time and effort into learning that certain way of saying things. So I am learning here and there.
Okay.
That makes better sense.
It does.
It's a long answer, but
So when you put things in your boot,
yeah,
when the guy from England tells you put stuff in your boot, now you know what that is. At least you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
wondering where your galoshes are.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I found that it's very interesting from people having very different perspectives from different countries, and for myself, and I actually enjoy going to learn to different churches for that reason originally, because everybody's kind of got a little different view, whether it's from a different country, from a little different religious background, from a different part of the country, and it's always interesting to hear their perspective.
And how they phrase everything to make you understand. And they're going,
Yes.
he is confused. Let's try a different phrase. Like, oh, I heard that from a James Bond movie. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
Yep. So do you like James Bond?
no,
I didn't think so.
no. I feel it's an overhyped individual. It's kind of like, it's like, yeah, he's cool, he's great with the ladies, but he has way too many gadgets, and he's learned all of them. This one guy has learned all these gadgets, and he has this all arsenal for one guy. I'm like, that's basically an entire Navy SEAL team that we need for one guy from the UK, and they are the ones we conquered. No, I don't think so. It's a good story, but I don't like him. I like John Connery
I was gonna
as
say
him.
that's who I like, because
That's the way I
I
like.
like observing Sean Connery because he's the person who's integrated.
He's kind of like Batman overrated. Yes.
His
He's like Batman overrated.
uh,
Overrated Batman. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
hey, you shouldn't mess with Batman with this guy here. Why do you like Batman?
He's Batman. He's a Dark Knight. He is one with the darkness. No, I enjoy it because he's logical.
Yes.
He's a detective as well. He's like, he thinks before he acts. He won't kill anybody. He just captures and puts them in an asylum or a jail, wherever they deserve. But he also beat Superman. And the one thing he said, he's like, "Do gods bleed?"
Hmm.
Because Superman said, "I am a god among men," and he
Wow.
says, "Do gods bleed?" And this is in the original comic books.
Okay.
And he beat him to a pulp, and he stepped on his chest and he said, "Remember this: a man beat you," and walked away. And I'm like, "That's
Cool.
my Batman." So that's why I enjoy Batman, because he has made a god fallen, and he did
Okay.
it by using his smarts, his wits, because he used kryptonite. He bought from Lex Luthor.
Hmm.
He created his own weapons to beat a god, and he's like, "This is who I am for Gotham," because he was like, "This is what's gonna happen to us, all of us, if we let one man rule the world."
Right.
And so he was able to step him down and go, "This is what the facts are. This is who I am, and I use logic to beat you."
Not real big on most of the superheroes, but I do like the fact, and when I was a kid, I watched Batman, and for
Okay.
the same reason, for the same reasons,
Yeah.
because he is not just somebody who's just got this superpower that none of us could ever attain to.
Right.
He's working with a lot of wealth, that
Yeah.
does help. But other than that, using logic and cunning and a few camera tricks.
Yeah.
But at least a lot better than most of the other ones.
Yep. And
So,
and the thing is, again, most of it, a lot of it is logic. And that's a
yes.
big thing for you. See my dad a lot using logic and a lot of things. I'm like, my dad got me into Batman, and I'm like, why? I'm like, oh, now I know why. Because like, yeah, Justice League was nobody without Batman. Batman made Justice League happen because he was there, like, going, I need to orchestrate a team who are stronger than me. He'll admit they're stronger than me, but he knew at the end how to beat every single one of them if they turn bad. And I'm like, that's genius. Like, he had everything planned ahead, and it's one man. Just one dude going. I'm like, if you had 10 Batmans, can you
True.
imagine?
One of the other things that I was doing this morning, one of the other, as far as the extrovert introvert
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
similar to that, was there are two things that, based on how they try to be in those two areas, that will determine almost everybody's character.
In
I'm not going to get into both of them because
Okay.
but I'll mention one of them, seeing as you just brought it up. One of the calculations is: are you a person of logic, or are you a person of passion? Primarily. Again, we want to have both.
Right.
You want to have passion, but which one rules in your life? And that, and one other issue, which that's a little more complicated.
For Sunday, right?
Perhaps this one I might cover on Sunday.
Okay.
But that is one of the two primary instances. That plus, do I try to look like I'm a passionate person, or do I try to look like I'm a logical person? You put
questions.
Those are the questions.
Oh.
Those are the questions.
Okay.
And so you answer those four questions, and I'll tell you what type of person you are. From
Right.
4 questions. And that's really what I'm asking in those 4 questions. And one of those questions is really trying to determine, even though I don't ask you, because
Right.
everybody will go, oh yeah, I'm logical.
Yeah.
Most people.
Are you logical or reactionary, basically? Like,
well, the question specifically was, do you think of yourself as being, impulsively passionate or coldly calculating?
Right.
And if you use the term logical, everybody's going to use
Logical.
logic. But coldly calculating implies that you think it's more important
Right.
than being passionate. And then you got to make a clear decision.
Which is also why you don't like villains in a lot of comic books, because they're cold calculating and they're portrayed as better than the superheroes.
Reverse of that.
Really?
I prefer most of the villains to the superheroes, because the superheroes are usually so fake and just led by their feelings.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
So like in the Superman one, I think it's Superman with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
I prefer Lex Luthor. Because he's at least intelligent. He's at least reasonably logical.
And bald. So all the villains are all bald?
No, I don't watch that.
No. Literally, I would say 80% of all the people who are villains in DC are bald. I didn't realize that.
So I should clarify before people say, oh, so you like the villains.
Right.
No, I don't like the villains the most, but I respect them more.
Right.
In other words, there's more to learn from the villains than there is to learn from the supposed heroes in most of those shows. And that's partly because our culture is really a villain culture. And the people who write these identify more and put more personality and character usually into the villains than they do into the so-called superhero.
And see, that'll open a whole new discussion, you know that, right?
Of course.
Like, how do certain people know, like, okay, so the whole new Star Wars saga, right? Or whatever it is, the villains were portrayed very, very, very well.
Right.
Whereas it made Luke Skywalker just a puny son of a gun now. And it's like, why? And it's like, what did you...
I don't even watch most of the new ones in Star Wars, but I'll use one that I did watch, which was Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Which is just an atrocity compared to the book, in my opinion. And when I look at what that Peter guy, I forget his last name is, but anyway, what he did to Lord of the Rings, and I look at these characters, and they are so two-dimensional for all the good guys.
Right.
And then they put in Gollum in there. And they play Gollum to a T.
Yeah.
He is the only person that comes out of Lord of the Rings actually as the character was in the book. And I'm going, yeah, That's the character of the people who did the movie.
Right. I mean, they almost did like word for word some of those phrases in there. I'm going, they didn't do it with Frodo because
Right.
most of his phrases are just, just made up out of the blue.
Yeah.
And then here's Gollum. The entire scene of him talking to himself was word for word. I'm going,
Because they
what?
related to it. They
Yeah.
could say, yeah, I can feel that. Whereas
Yeah.
when they did Faramir, they actually made him the exact opposite of who Tolkien actually made him to be. So
Right.
Faramir tries to steal the ring from Frodo,
Which never happened.
which never even happened.
Yeah.
It's just totally made up and ridiculous.
So there's your guys' facts of the day for the. You want to argue with him? Then go right ahead. Like.
I don't argue, but I'll discuss.
Samwise is still my favorite. All right, Waffle.
He is. Actually, Tolkien said that Samwise is the person that you as a reader are supposed to identify with. Because Frodo was created at almost a level that's higher than most people can attain to. Gandalf obviously is higher
Right.
than most people can attain to. Even Faramir. But Samwise represents us. A person who starts out, with a good heart, but needs to learn a lot.
Yeah.
He hasn't even been outside of the shower. He's shyer. Sorry. He hasn't been more than like 20 miles away from his home.
Right.
But he grows incredibly, and he becomes a legitimate hero
Yeah.
by the end of the book.
The
And
warrior
he
of the
carries,
book.
yeah, he carries the ring, and Frodo could not have made it without Frodo's help.
Right.
And so Frodo is a good person to identify with.
Samwise, you mean?
Samwise, sorry, yes.
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 I read lasagna. Wow, fun, Dad. Thanks. I know you're not illiterate, okay? Just because you're from North Carolina, I mean you're not illiterate, okay?
But that is a key part of what Tolkien said, was that when Samwise had the ring, he realized my responsibility is over taking care of my garden. I am not supposed to usurp the power to try to be the master of the world.
Right.
And knowing what his responsibility was made him do the heroic action. Something that most people wouldn't look at as heroic. We think of heroic as someone who gets out there and slays 100 people, in a shot with a single sword strike.
Like Boromir.
Yeah, or whatever. Or I'm talking about a lot of the superhero shows. But the hero part of Samwise was his ability to restrain his natural impulses and actually decide to be much better than almost anybody else would have been if they had put on the ring.
And to loop all this around is because he grew in integrity.
He grew in integrity. Brought it around to the beginning.
Brought it around. So, Waffle Dreamer, are you right now streaming? Because we're going to end it here.
Glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please come again.
Great time. Waffle Dreamer is
If I'm on again, which hopefully I will be.
She is not on right now. But we will send this over to someone. I'm getting ready, guys. Want to stop by and say hey? Well, hey.
Hey.
So we're actually gonna drop this raid out to Polly, because I need to go to bed. I have been up for over 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're impressive that way.
It was a long day. And I had 2 cans of caffeine. I had 4 bottles of water.
You're doing good. I'm impressed.
Like,
I got 4 hours of sleep. I'm great.
I'm great rest of the day. But yeah, so you gotta take care. Have an awesome rest of your day, guys.
Be blessed.
Have a laughing life. Be blessed. And until next time.
Shalom.
Yes, shalom.